Hello everybody, David here from Martin Lynch and Sons, and today I've got something quite special with me. This is my FTX-1 and I've been using this, living with this for quite a while now. What we wanted to do today is I just wanted to share some of the things that I've learned about the FTX-1 and just how you can go about looking to getting the best out of it. Because it's not an exhaustive list and I'm sure I'm only still scratching the surface, but this is what I've learned. So I'm going to show you some of the buttons, what they do, which is pretty straightforward, and then I'm going to show you some of my settings and what some of the menu settings do, just to give you a clearer idea of how to drive your FTX-1 and get the very best out of it. So we'll flip this round in a minute. But first off, stay tuned to the end because we're going to draw the raffle. If you weren't aware, or if you're living under a rock somewhere, we had our open day last Saturday or Saturday week, and it was absolutely brilliant. One of the things there, everybody was buying raffle tickets. We've got some fantastic prizes, and at the end of the video, we're going to draw that raffle. So stay tuned, see if you won. Let's flip this round now, and we'll take a look. So we flipped it round, we've got an antenna connected as well. And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to very quickly show you around some of the buttons. We've already done that in another video, so you can always check that out. So on the top here, we've got some dual function buttons. So the mode, for instance, if I press that, it will cycle through the modes, or I can press and hold it. And you can see there that it brings it up on the screen. So we've got the mode, the band, we've got PMG, which is just used on 2 meters, 70 centimeters. And we've got the SDX button, which is obviously for 2 meters, 70 centimeters. And that can be used as a preamp just to hear those low down signals. We've got the Wires X button, but as everybody knows that's got an FTX-1, that update is coming and then that functionality will work. So that's just the buttons that we got across the top. We've got the memory, we've got the VFO button, we've got VFO to memory, and we've got the split. So you can read up about those or just have a look at one of our other videos. What we're going to be more concentrating on today is the menu system. Before we do get into the menu, let's take a quick look at the buttons and the knobs that we've got on the front here. So basically we've got our traditional VFO button that we're all used to. We've got the function button. That will change and affect anything that you've got it set to. So within the menu, you can choose what you want this function button to do when you turn it or when you press it. We've then got the AF button at the bottom, so that's our volume. Okay, that's our volume. And then if I press it once, that then gives us our RF gain. You can see there, that's our RF gain. I always have it go all the way to the top, and I just back it off a little bit before it starts affecting the needle there and our noise floor. We've got the clarifier button. When you press this, you'll see right here, that's clarifying the RX, it's clarifying the TX, and a third press, that means you clarify the RX and the TX. And to affect that, you're using the VFO. So you can see there, I'm going plus 80 Hertz, minus 80 Hertz, and then obviously we'll put it back in the middle. So that's how the clarifier works. We've got our fine and fast at the bottom here. Don't know whether you can see that, fine and fast. So if you want to do a little bit of fine tuning, then you can, and you can change the Hertz there. And then we've got our back button. So when you're in a menu, wherever you are, and you want to get back to the screen, you can just hit the back button. So the VFO on the FTX-1, VFO A, is on the right here. It's this one here. Normally, it's here. I know, but it's here. And this VFO affects VFO A. VFO B is here. So this is the small sub dial. And we will use that to adjust the sub frequency. So VFO B, depending on what we're monitoring, whether it's 2 meters or 70 centimeters. And again, I can push it and you can see there that I went from VFO A to VFO B. On the bottom, we've got the volume knob, which is great. And then when we're in 2 meters or 70 centimeters, if I press it, it gives me my squelch. So nice and easy. And once you've used it a few times, it becomes second nature. Display button, you can mix the display up in any way that you want, top to bottom. I always use the single one, works for me. And now we can have a quick look at the screen itself and the settings within the FTX-1. Okay, so we've just adjusted the screen there so we're more focused on it, because we're going to be deep diving into the menu structure of the FTX-1. How you get into the menu is slightly different than other Yaesus like the 710 and the DX10. The function button, which I showed you earlier, I'm going to press and hold that. So it's a press and hold to get into the functions. There we go. So we're now into the first screen. It's got 3 screens. This is the first screen, and this is where you can control your audio on SSB and FM. So we're going to roll over the top on the most important thing. So the first thing is the D level. This is the D level. This sets the reference for the display. So if I just go back for a second, you can see that I'm scrolling across and I'm going to leave the little orange cursor over D level. That means when I come out of the menu, that's going to be assigned to the function button. So whenever I turn the function button, that's what I'm going to be affecting. I'm going to be affecting the D level. So we're just going to come out of this a minute, and you can see that the level of on the waterfall there, we're on 3D. We can take it off of 3D and we go on to normal 2D. And if I start increasing the D level, you can see it alters the reference that the waterfall display is using. So if you're in a really quiet area with no noise, then you can use the reference level so you can see the actual signals that you're looking for. You can affect the span by hitting the span button. Just let me get my little dibber here. So if we hit the span button, we can set how much is on the screen, how much from one end to the other end, left and right, that we're actually looking at. I've got it set to 200. That kind of works for me. But if we put it on 100, you'll see that it just moves in the edges. So we're only looking at 100 kilohertz span of that part of the band. You've seen me use the 3DS. So that literally blips us between the 2D and the 3D, depending on what you like. We also have the multi button. So those that have the 710 and the DX10, most of this is going to be familiar to you. That allows us to bring us up a little oscilloscope and what they call the FFT, which is what our audio is going to look like in that bandpass that we've set the radio to. So that will be on both your transmit and your receive audio. And we'll pop that back. And the next thing we're going to look at is, if we go back into the main menu, simply by pressing and holding the function button, we're going to look at D peak. So I'm going to select that once. That's selected. That's popped that onto my function button. So when I affect the function button, you can see my levels change. Now what that does in effect, that just kind of preamplifies the waterfall itself. And there's a few levels. I think it goes up to 5. There you go. And it can just pep up the waterfall itself and the sensitivity on there. We then have colors. So if I click that, you can then select your colors. So you've got a range of different colors. Personal preference, I have mine set on that. That works for me. I have all of my Yaesu set on that setting, and it just kind of works. So that is the colors of the display. Okay, we go back in. We've then got the decontrast. That is what it is. Basically, you end up controlling the contrast. And if I go back, there we go. And it controls the brightness of the screen. So obviously if you're operating in the dark, then it allows you to turn it down so it's not too blinding there. So that is decontrast. we have the dimmer. That will dim the lights or the outside edges of the FTX-1. Basically, that will just dim everything down. So it's the screen brightness, it's everything else. So you've got the contrast and you've got the dimmer. So you've got the brightness and you've got the contrast. So we've got the MOX. So press that and that will key the radio. We've got the ATT, that one there, which is the attenuator. One press of that will turn the attenuator on. We then have, if I turn that off, we have our IPO. Now, if I press that, I can then cycle through IPO, which stands for Intercept Point Optimization, or I can put it on preamp 1 or preamp 2. I can also get to that from the front screen. So just here, you'll see it's there too. So I can select that, and then I can select what preamp that I need. There we go. 9 times out of 10, I'll have it on IPO. That seems to work wherever I take the FTX-1. Works really, really well. We got our digital noise function, which is really, really good. So what that will do is it will get rid of any heterodyne. So if someone's keying up or if you have a little birdie on there, it will assist in eliminating that's something that isn't allowing you to hear the voice behind. So DNF works really well. It's on the other Yaesu radios, so it's on the 101, the 710 and the DX10, and it can really work really well, especially if you've got someone that's tuning perhaps on the band where you've got a little pile up going. Okay. The next one is AGC. I leave that on auto on all of my radios. I've never really had to change it. It just works for me. So have a play around with it and see how it works for you. But for me, AGC Auto works every time. Now we move on to mic EQ. And it kind of has a couple of functionalities depending on another button, which is the processor, on whether you have the processor engaged or not engaged. So if you have the EQ on and the processor off, that will trigger the radio to use the first 3 parametric settings. And then when you have the processor on, that will engage the next set of 3 parametric settings. There's lots of videos out there that will show you how to set those up. Some people find it a bit complicated, but it really isn't. It really is straightforward. All the second set of EQs are doing is just kicking in when we're using the processor. When the processor's off, we're using the first set. So you can change your audio dependent on whether you have a processor running or not. So I've got the EQ on. That means I'm using the parametric EQ. And you can see down here that I've got the processor level just here. I've got the processor level set to 10. Because it's on, that means that I'm using the second set of P parametric filters or EQs. So we'll have a look at those in a second. So processor's on, mic EQ is on. Now down here we've got auto tune and we've got tuner off. They will come into play when you either connect an Optima to the back of the FTX-1 or if you're using it mobile with an ATAS. So the FTX-1 out of the box will work with an ATAS if you have one fitted on your car. And it's dead easy to do. You just hit that button and then the ATAS will tune for whatever band that you've got the radio set to. We've got our traditional noise blanker, something that we see in most radios. It does work really well. It really can get rid of some of those annoying noises that we do suffer with at home, such as power line or anything like that. We then have our famous DNR that is in all of the HF Yaesu radios, so the 710, DX10 and the 101, and it works just as well on the FTX-1 as it does on those radios. And again, you can assign it. So you can see there I've got it selected, I've got the orange box around it, and that will allow me to affect the DNR, or literally I can turn it off if I should want to go without DNR. Okay, we go back into the menu. We then got the antenna, and obviously that comes into play when you've got the Optima plugged in, because it has 2 antenna ports at the back. And then we've got our RF power. So I'm running off the battery. So as you can see there, it says 6 watts. If I was plugged into a battery or an external power supply, then that would be 10 watts. Mic gain is the mic gain. AMC level. Now, this is where it can be a little bit controversial, because AMC level can stop the radio overmodding, and you can look at that from when you have the screen set to processor. So on here, on here, I can go to compression, and I can measure the amount of compression that I'm getting from my audio, and you can use the AMC level to be able to change that. So let's say in the manual it says adjust the AMC so it's no more than 10 dB. What I've found though is if I have it on 100, which pretty much is the Vicky Verky way that you would understand it, because at 100 it has the least effect. So if we had it on 50, it would have more of an effect. I like setting my compression and my mic gain on the most traditional way, is using the ALC. So I simply set my radio to ALC, and then I will use the mic gain and the processor to make sure that I'm driving the ALC correctly. I will then switch to the processor on here, or compression, and I will then see what sort of compression I'm getting and then adjust from there. That has really, really, really worked for me. So I'm sticking with that, but give it a go. Try out the AMC and set your audio up. Check the compression, check the ALC, because it may work for you. We've got Vox, which is pretty straightforward. Everybody knows how to use the Vox system, and that's pretty much it for this screen. So this is where you would set the basic parameters up for the FTX-1. I'm going to go to the next screen now. So this is one at the moment I don't use that much, but I do plan to in the future. So over here on this side, we've got all our CW information. We've got our Moni level, which we can use in both CW and voice. And then we've got our break-in, our CW speed, our pitch, and you can flex and change all of that to suit how you transmit using CW. Down here, this is where we can record CQ messages, for instance. So if I'm calling CQ a lot, I will record myself a message, and then I can just press that each time and it will call CQ until somebody comes back. So bit of a voice saver there. Great for contests as well, because you can put your CQ contest call out, and it will just save you a lot of strain on your voice. The next screen, this is where we've got everything to do with APRS. So if you're into your APRS, this is where you'd set it up. All you need is the little GPS dongle that sits on the side of the FTX-1. And then on the left-hand side, we've got everything that's associated with digital modes, such as YSX, once it's there. Along the bottom, though, if you've got an FTX 710 or an FT 710 or a DX 10 or a 101, you'll be quite familiar with these little icons down the bottom that are in blue, because this is where we can really go into the settings, the menu of the FTX-1. The first one we're going to go into is radio settings, and I think this is one of the most exciting ones. So what we have on the left hand side here is how we can set the receive audio for all of these different modes. So we've got SSB, AM, FM, data, RTTY, and we've got digital at the bottom. I'm going to walk you through SSB, okay? And I'm going to show you the things that is a little bit of a game changer, especially if you like hearing the radio in a certain way, you've got hearing loss, or you like more highs or more lows, you can affect that in here. Where you see a setting and it's in yellow, that means that that's its default, okay? So that's its default setting right there. So up at the top, we've got the treble, the middle, and the bass. And that's exactly the same as on your stereo at home or your phone. You can adjust those settings on how you like to hear the radio. Great thing about the FTX-1 is we've got the speaker that is forward facing. So we get everything, and it's a lot easier to hear the changes that you make. So definitely have a play around with them. Have a few listens to some stations and flex and change those and just see what you can hear. Not every radio will allow you to change the RX, and I think that's a pretty cool thing to be able to do that. You can't do it on a 101 though. That's the one thing that that is missing from a 101. You cannot change the receive audio in the same way as you can with the FTX-1, FT710 and the DX10. That's the main thing in here that you can flex and change. You can change sort of like the low cut and the high cut. So obviously you get more articulation listening to 2400, 2500 kilohertz. So that's where the articulation comes from. So in theory, you can see on here that I've got it set to cut off at 2500 hertz, and then it will reflect it down by 6 dB for every octave. So it's a pretty slow curve there. Slow curve. It's a pretty slow curve there, but what we can do, we can obviously adjust that. And if we want 18 dB per octave, we can do that too. So what I would suggest is have a play around with it, see what works for you. We all like listening things differently, and that's going to come across quite commonly, especially in this video, is that you do have to tailor make it on how you want to listen to your audio. Everything else can remain the same. I haven't changed any of the other ones apart from the TX bandpass. So I have this set to 200 to 2800, and that's my TX. So this is how much of the bandpass we're using for our audio that we're transmitting. I have this set to 200 to 2800, so that's kind of squished a little bit, but it really works for me. I've listened to a few SDRs just to check out my own audio, and it sounded good. I've got some good reports as well. I don't ask all the time, but every now and then, if I'm having a bit of a rag chew with someone, I will ask them. 200 to 2800, the default is 100 to 2900. So we've just shut the gate a little bit in regard to our TX audio. So I'm going to put that back to where I had it. There we go. And pretty much, I don't think I've changed any of the other settings in here. Again, have a little read of the manual, and you'll certainly have some fun flexing and changing. And don't worry, if it all goes horribly wrong, you can still reset the radio back to factory defaults. Just remember, grab yourself an SD card and back up your settings. But if all goes horribly wrong and you can't figure out what you changed, go back in, change them all back to yellow, orange, or yellow, and you should be all good. So we're going to go back here. We've got our CW settings. Again, this is a more finite changes of your CW. Again, I haven't used these because I'm not a CW operator, but that may change in the future because I've been practicing with my Morse trainer. So who knows what will happen. Operation settings. So most of this I've set and left at default, okay? Not too much to change in there. The cat rates is probably the most important one. If you're using something like WSJTX, you're going to need to go in there and change those depending on what baud rate you've set in WSJTX, but that's pretty much about it. What we're going to do now, we're going to go down to TX audio. So earlier on, I was talking about the parametrics, so the 3-band EQ system that Yaesu use in almost all of their radios. And you heard me talk about when you have no processor, you will use a certain set. Well, that set is up here, okay? So it's called Parametric EQ. And then what you can do, you have 3 of them, and you can affect a specific frequency, and then you can tell it the level that you want to affect it, i.e. do you want to boost it or do you want to reduce it? And then you have the bandwidth. So that's how much we affect either side of that 200 hertz right there that I've selected. So how much either side of the 200 hertz do I want to affect? And these are the parametrics that you'll use when you're not using the processor. I use the processor all the time. So if we scroll down, we're going to go down and you'll see that change. There we go. I'm going to put that up at the top. You can see that change to P parametrics. Now these are the ones that kick in when we're using the processor. And these are my settings that I use predominantly most of the time, okay? So we'll just roll through them really quickly, but don't worry about them too much. There is a blog on the website, on the Martin Lynch website, Martin Lynch & Sons website. There's a blog there that's got some, here you go, here's some settings, give them a go and see what you sound like. So they're a starter for 10. It's going to be different for everybody. We've all got different voices, but this is what works for me. So the first frequency that I'm affecting there is 200 hertz, and I'm boosting that, but I'm only changing a little bit either side of the 200 hertz. So these are the base levels. Then I'm going to affect 1300 hertz, and I'm going to boost that as well. So I've boosted that by 10. And again, I'm only changing a little bit either side of that 1300 hertz. And the last one, which for me is the most important, is 2400. That's, as I said before, where you get most of your articulation. There's a fantastic video by the late Bob Heil, which goes into where the sweet spots are when we're talking on the radio, and certainly 2500 is a sweet spot. And again, I've boosted that, but what I've done, I've gone a little bit further either side of the 2400, and this is what works for me on the FTX-1. I have different settings on the 101 at home. I use a different microphone, so therefore it will change. So if you use a different microphone, you may want to recheck your settings to make sure that it's still how you want to be heard. Now that's pretty much it in there, because I'm only going over the things that I've used and understood, and you know, little tips and tricks here and there. We've got our display settings, and again, you've got my call sign in there, and I've left everything else pretty much the same. Haven't needed to touch it. In the future, maybe I'll go in and may change a few bits and pieces, but for the moment, it's not one that I've actually needed to go in and change, as it were. Extension settings, exactly the same on most of the Yaesus. We've got our date and time. We've got our position in which it will pick up from the GPS unit. We've got our SD card, and this is where we can format our SD cards. We can back up to it. We can load from it. So that's definitely a worthwhile thing doing, is once you've got this there or thereabouts, make sure you keep on saving it. Give it a different naming convention each time, and you'll always be able to recall. Software version, that's the software version that I'm running at the minute. We've got a calibration there. I haven't used that. And then we've got the factory reset. So if you can't get it back to where you were before by going through the menus, seeing what's yellow, seeing what's set to default, see what's not, then you can do a reset. Bear in mind though, if you didn't do the part with the SD card and back everything up, it will completely reset the radio, and any settings will be lost forever, and you'll have to go through and redo those again. And then we've got our APRS settings. You will need to go in here if you use an APRS. You will need to basically turn on GPS from within here, within the settings. I've had mine set up for quite a while now, and it works very, very well. There are some really good videos that will show you how to set up APRS with the FTX-1, so check those out. And it's great fun when you're in the car, just to beacon your position and obviously help others to touch base using the APRS network. That's pretty much it from me and the FTX-1. And we're going to move on to the Raffle now. So I hope you're all excited. But before we do, here's a little message from Martin.
Well, thank you, David. That was very interesting. Learning to drive your FTX-1 properly. Great. I'll get mine out after I've finished this little video and try setting it up myself. Right, just to say thank you so much to all the hundreds and hundreds of you that made the pilgrimage to my open day, or our open day last weekend. It really was, I know I say it almost every year, but it really was the best one. Seriously, it was the best, and thank you to the two parking stewards who did a fantastic job getting everybody parked in, but it was really great. We raised over £500 for Alzheimer's, our chosen charity. My dear old mum succumbed to vascular dementia and Alzheimer's, so we follow that. We doubled it to £1,000, so that was presented to them this week, I think it was. And that's really, really good. I hope you enjoyed yourselves on the day. For those of you that couldn't make it, you watched the little video clip, hopefully. A lot of 6 hours, nobody's done it already, so that's wonderful. Thumbs up for that one. IC7300 Mark IIs, yeah, they're in, I think. By the time you watch this video, they will be in, which is fantastic. Goodness knows whether we've got any left, but check with the sales guys. That's it from me. Have a wonderful Christmas and a great new year. I might see before the end of the year, but unlikely. Let's go back to David for the raffle. Over to you, David.
Thank you for that, Martin. And I want to thank everybody that come down to our open day. Everybody here had an absolute blast seeing everybody, and it was just great to catch up and have a little bit of fun on a Saturday. So what we're going to do now, we're going to draw the raffle. We've got 3 prizes. So we have a Sangen cabinet radio, we have an ICOM ID50, and we also have a G90 as the first prize. So a Zygu G90 is the first prize. So I'm going to grab my Santa hat here, and I'm going to have a little rummage, and we're going to pull somebody out. So good luck, everybody. Let's see who we've got. Okay, we have got Golf 5 Yankee Alpha X-Ray. Congratulations, you have run the Sangen cabinet radio. Okay. Second prize, which is the ID50. Give it another stir in there. There we go. Got one. Oh, got 2 there. There we go. So we got Mike 0 Foxtrot Romeo Hotel. Well done. You've won the ICOM ID50. Right. So final prize, and I think it's obviously the best one because it is the first prize, and that's a Zygu G90. So good luck, everybody. One Zygu G90 coming up. Golf 6 Papa Bravo Sierra. Well done to you for winning the Zygu G90. We raised a lot of money for charity on the Saturday, so thank you all for entering the prize draw. And that's it from me this week, but we'll be in contact with everybody that's won the prize, everybody that's won the prizes, and we'll be in contact with you very soon. So take care and see you next time.